in lieu of a commissioner in college football.
No czar, baby. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. In lieu of that, the networks are going to be driving the bus.
Okay, so that's the bigger point. The networks are, in fact, driving the bus, and nobody wants to talk about that publicly, but the presidents have acknowledged it in quips here and there. Read articles over the last year, and you'll occasionally hear a university president, I referenced Northwestern a moment ago, talk about super conferences, the landscape of college football never being the same. They've acknowledged that that's all going to shift. How could it not when you already have entities like Texas and Oklahoma set to join the SEC and USC and UCLA set to join the Big Ten? How does that eventually get back what I care about and what you care about and what our listeners care about to affecting FSU in the positive? Does it mean we are stuck here for the next number of years while those conferences continue to grow, gain strength, and more importantly, separate financially from what Florida State and members of the ACC can do? And I think the answer is that as long as that expansion is happening, as long as that is still an ongoing negotiation behind the scenes by the networks, that eventually that would include Florida State and Clemson as assets as part of that discussion, meaning that they would strengthen their SEC by adding a Florida State and a Clemson. The Big Ten would effort to bring in, say, North Carolina and Virginia or something along those lines. I don't think that the SEC ESPN relationship would allow for the Big Ten to come into the state of Florida. At that point, the Big Ten would have a coast-to-coast network that they could sell, which is greater than anything ESPN would have. They're not going to allow for that, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, unless they get something else that would
what would the concession
footprint
be? Right.
Yeah. Or you normalize the product, and by that I mean you normalize the payout, and then you spread it across the two conferences evenly, and then you can do whatever the hell you want. Like if you're in agreement that you're all going to work together, and let's say that it's a 50-team league or something along those lines, and you say the TV revenue is going to go into one big pie, and we're going to split it. There's a conference and a conference, because in theory, the NFL is a collection of two super conferences. The NFC and the AFC. Those are two conferences that agreed to play together when the league merger happened years and years ago. You could, if you had the strong leadership, form a college football super league with two conferences. But we're a long way away from there. The hope for Florida State, and, Michael Alford, this is one of the best things he's doing right now. It's all he really can do.
It's awesome.
But they're hammering it home on the social media platforms about how attractive of a product it is. And if you haven't seen it on WarchantTV, I encourage you. Corey Clark narrated an article that he wrote last week about Florida State's brand numbers and just YouTube replays alone, how much more valuable, you can use this as a metric, how much more valuable Florida State is, even more than Clemson, even more than any other team in the ACC. Florida State rings true. It gets more clicks than anybody else. So if this is an era of ultimate greed, which it always is, by the networks, you can't not have Florida State be a part of the discussion. We're too damned valuable. Our ratings are too consistently good.
Well, agreed. And that is why, it's one of many reasons why we were getting desperate to get back into our winning ways. You have to put your best foot forward. You have to have been in a position to, again, matter so that those ratings come through and you have some look at me moments along the way of a football season. And Florida State had it, and they'll only continue to grow that already wildly popular brand with back-to-back winning seasons, back-to-back-to-back winning seasons. So in addition to getting tired of losing, we talked about this past year as being vital to the long-term success of Florida State athletics. And that's what we were referencing. It wasn't just the need for Mike to succeed so that his tenure could exist 2 and 3 years from now. It was for Florida State football to have put their best foot forward to be in a position where they would be of vital importance in any negotiation between TV networks.
Oh, proverbially speaking, look at the top left of the screen. We're running to Orange Theory Fitness right now. This program is getting itself in great shape. The Catalina wine mixer's coming up. And we want to be in prime tuxedo wearing conditions for the wine mixer. That's what we're trying to do. The thing is, even if we weren't in prime physical condition, we're still that attractive because we had the first good season we've had in some time, but our ratings are monstrous. They're monstrous relative to bowl ratings, Monday night games, Friday
They
night
have
games.
been for years, too. Florida's,
Yes.
without question, yes.
We play Notre Dame when we're terrible. It still rates like crazy. We play Miami when we're terrible. It still rates like crazy. Consistently been that way. It's going to be that way. It's just a matter of, will ESPN work with itself on the ACC-SEC front, or will ESPN use a couple of ACC chips to get something bigger for itself?
Well, yeah.
And then we move along the way.
And so, in that way, aren't you, like me, rooting for the Big Ten to keep pushing?
Yeah.
I mean, when they added USC and UCLA, I was like, don't stop. Don't stop. Throw it on the table, guys. Throw it on the table. Grab Oregon. Grab Washington. Grab the only other big boys in that conference. Grab them. And it's at that point that the SEC goes, okay, well, we're going to have to continue. Ours is bigger. Let's go grab Florida State and Clemson.
Our slogan is, it just means more. We
I
can't.
mean, yeah, we're getting outdone here.
We can't let this happen.
Right.
Well, it's like anything else. When you are on the open market, anybody out there in the chat or the podcast audience or the radio audience, and you have a chance to either change your career or take the next step, when are you in the best position to get the most for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
When there are multiple offers on the table.
Right.
If there's only one offer and you walk into that room for the negotiation and you reek of desperation, ain't going to happen for you. But if you sit down in that room with multiple offers and you can look somebody in the eye and say, this is what they're doing for me, can you beat it?
Yeah.
That's when
this
you get the best deal.
I'm going to need more. Yeah.
So if the Big Ten keeps pushing, wherever we end up, it will be a really, really good situation. It's just, when you hear the news of Fox and ESPN not playing nice for the matter of 1 year on a contract, that's not good. That doesn't sound like the Big Ten can make a viable case for our landscape to be more fruitful.
Yeah, I was, yes, in terms of us getting out from under our grant of rights situation, yes, because it's so much more dire than Texas and Oklahoma's. I mean, their deal is almost up to the point where they can just let it end and then go. Ours is not even close. And every time I think of this, I liken it to free agency, and I'm like, okay, so when you're the Pirates and you don't pay players and you have a good one, and we're marching towards the end of this deal, and you know you're not going to get anything for them, you got to trade them 2 years in advance and hope like hell that, you can spruce up your minor league ranks. The ACC at some point is going to be like, well, we're never keeping Clemson and Florida State. But they're not doing it in 2023, 2024. If the deal doesn't end until 2034, 2030, whatever.
6, yeah.
Yeah.
If
this were 2031, they might be like, well.
Oh, at that point, it'll never get to 2031. We'll be able to pay the buyout probably 5 years from now.
Maybe.
Collective as a group of interested parties in the ACC, if it got to 5 years from now, they'd be able to cut the check at that point.
Maybe. I've always wanted, and I know that we've fought for, well, I say we. I think there are powerful people who would like to know what the number is. Just what's the number? Like right now, give us a number. $1 billion? Just fine. Give me a number. What is it? Is it $1 billion? Billion might be doable. Long term, you get investors, you get people that, all right, we're in.
Oh, that's like the scenes in terrible movies like Independence Day when all the nations get together to fight the aliens.
Yeah.
They're like, it's Morse code, sir. The Americans are reaching out. It has to be Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Virginia.
What's the number?
We need $1 billion, guys. Let's do it all together.
Let's go.
One giant GoFundMe.
$1 billion. Let's go. If they had the number, there are ways to get to the number, but they don't know the number. And that number isn't out there yet. Or that I'm aware of. And the ACC doesn't have to give that number just yet. They're going to sit back and see, because they're an asset to ESPN. A less valuable asset than the SEC, but they are an asset to ESPN right now.